thank you very much, everybody, for coming here today. Some of you may know Clari is a revenue operations platform used by Marketo, Adobe, Finastra, and other leading companies. According to G2, we were the leading sales analytics tool in EMEA, which has been great in the last week. It's been published. From all the sales events that I've ever been to in the past, the thing that I found personally the most interesting is the voice of the customer and understanding the customer rather than just talking about ourselves as salespeople. So I'm very pleased to be here with Lena. Lena, would you like to introduce yourself?
Thanks, Vernon. Sure. Good afternoon, everybody, one more time. My name is Lena Shishkina. I'm Chief Financial and Operations Officer at Redpoints. Redpoints is a very cool company out of Barcelona, Spain, but we also operate in New York, Salt Lake City, and have some presence in China, Beijing, and also in the UK, in London. The Redpoints is a brand intelligence platform, AI platform that fights counterfeits and piracy for all the e-commerce. So I've been doing this job since August last year. Very interesting times, but love what I'm doing. It's a great combination of finance and ops, but at the same time, it's SaaS tech, which is very relevant to a lot of you in this conference today. And yeah, it's just been amazing.
Right, very good. Okay, so thank you very much. Over the next 15, 20 minutes or so, we're going to try and go through the sales process and get your view of, as a customer, your response to that. So starting off at the beginning of the process, or starting off with you, when it comes to buying software, what is your role and how has that changed over your career?
Yeah, right now I'm fortunate to be responsible for the full procurement cycle and software, which is called tools and automation that comes under my remit. And this is from the procurement point of view and also from the tools and systems that I own for my role. There are also other tools and systems where we collaborate with multiple C-level people, the VPs, and obviously I'm actively involved when it comes to negotiations, which in the crisis right now that created a lot of opportunity to actually streamline and optimize the commercial terms and conditions of the tools and kind of reevaluate the stack.
So in these economic conditions, how do you decide what your priorities are and where to spend your money?
Sure. Yeah. Thanks, Vernon. It's a really great question, and we've been sort of looking at ourselves in the mirror for many times during these times. The first thing we said that anything related to the customer service, anything that we need to do for the customer, is our ultimate priority. How we buy, but also how we're organizing ourselves internally. The other thing I'm looking in my role, and I guess in also the way we are as the company, is we're looking at automation. If I have to choose to put a bot in place or a machine learning tool in place, I'd rather choose this over a person. And I think that is the philosophy of our company. We build our platform based on automation. It does require an eye and of a physical person, but we are pushing this to machine learning and artificial intelligence space. So the third one is I think most relevant today to answer your question about the economic conditions is the affordability, and it's not only how much cash we have to spend, which is very, very relevant today, but it is also what is essential for the business and what is not. And the way we look at it is, can we run our business effectively with or without this tool? And then we would define the core systems and we would define the nice to have. So there would be a lot of debate in the management and with people, what is essential, not essential. And then, yes, when you ask yourself, can we survive as the business? Can we run this business with or without? And I think that is for us the criteria. And the last but not the least, it's a very, very important point. And I believe what we learned a lot from that process in the crisis, it's the longer term partnership. I had a big finance hat during the last couple of months on the cash, on the forecast, on the optimization, purely on the fiscal terms. And when you speak to different companies, and there've been tens of them from the vendor side, and I personally run the majority of those discussions, and you see how then the conversations are going, how value conversations are being brought in, who you're dealing with, and sort of what the level of constructive dialogue you can have with a vendor. And with this, we would almost tag, certain companies like we don't think they're for us for the future. And we would tag the other ones, say, well, they are phenomenal partners for us in the longer term.
Very interesting. Okay, so going back to the start, so we learned a bit about you and your role. Now going to the start of the process, of the sales process, we've learned a lot about today. How often do people reach out to you to try and sell you something? Is that a frequent occurrence?
Thanks, Vernon. Yeah, well, it's interesting though, right? Because there's LinkedIn, but there's also direct approach by email, and even outside of LinkedIn, I think direct approach by email, I would say at least once a week, but it could be 5 days a week. And it has accelerated in the last couple of months and in the last couple of weeks. So there's a lot of direct mailing and direct approach.
And what differentiates those people that get through? How do you decide when to take a meeting or not?
Yeah, I guess I learned from also dealing a lot with my sales teams. Is you really, I personally look at anybody who's sending anything as it's a person involved, right? Somebody is sending me something. It's a person involved. It's a company involved, and then the first thing that I would look at is authenticity. Is that authentic? Does that feel authentic? It's probably hard to describe, but maybe it's the choice of the words. It's the way the product is positioned. And also the relevance. So if this is relevant or not relevant, I wouldn't be responding to everything, but I would, ask my team to take a look at that.
And you were talking of today, video has come up quite a bit, and you mentioned that earlier. Is that something you like? Does video resonate with you?
There was, Red Points. We're pushing a lot on the e-content and a lot of videos, and we've been discussing this for some of our programs, the personalized videos for clients. And interestingly, that I got one last week. As a coincidence, we're now in active discussions on one particular software, and we had no idea about this company, but that company represents that particular software. But what really got my eyes, it was a very simple image of the video, and it was branded as Red Points. And you just cannot avoid not to click on the video because people have made an effort to make it interesting for you. When I clicked on the video, it was a very passionate guy with a very short pitch, but also very authentic and genuine. And then you click again and try to find out about the company. So I forwarded this to the team. I said, listen, let's probably put it in the mix.
Fantastic. It just shows it works. A company you'd never heard of before, personalized short video that everybody's been talking about today. Morgan was talking about that in particular. Just shows that it works. Okay, so you've accepted the first meeting. You're getting ready for that first meeting. Prior to that meeting, do you want to be sent an agenda and content? Do you want to read the kind of demo, the deck beforehand or not?
I would probably, and this is probably my experience working in software for almost 15 years. I've been close to the sales teams, kind of being on the other side, more on the sales side than maybe on the buy side. I would prefer the agenda, and that's something that we can openly discuss with an account manager, whoever is setting up the meeting. Agenda is just aligning expectations. I guess on our side, we'd probably put something, okay, we want this and this from the meeting, so it's more exchanging maybe some of the ideas about the meeting. It is also so it's expectation setting, and it's also if we have to do the homework, then I prefer to know this a little bit in advance and give us some time. In terms of the presentation, again, my learning is let's have a chat. You guys present this in the meeting, and then also sometimes we can get a copy, sometimes we will not get a copy. So I'm quite okay with not having any pre-read because I kind of want to be a little bit surprised. And I saw this working in the past as well with clients.
But then how do you decide, so you don't have the pre-reads necessarily, but you want a pre-agreed agenda. So you've had a meeting. How do you then decide to go to the next meeting or not? What makes a good first meeting? What makes you decide to move forward or not?
Yeah, sure, Vernon. I guess as I've discussed before, all these elements, if we are looking for something, for software today, kind of relevance of that software, what we're looking for today, or it could be professional service, right? Anything that we're looking for, considering today. The second thing is relevance to maybe a problem we want to solve, but we haven't been thinking about it. Example is, there was again one of those emails talking about how we can optimize with a piece of software, how we can optimize the SaaS stack. And you can think, well, it's actually interesting to explore because maybe we can find about some ideas. And then in the actual meeting, you kind of validate. is this interesting or relevant for us? We would look at the technology and the customer base, and say, okay, is that relevant from the customer base? And then there must be a click. So I think it's maybe a little bit harder now online. But when you're in the room with a person, you would feel there's a click or there's not a click. But then what it then evolves into the cultural fit. So I think not maybe in the first meeting, but definitely in the second meeting, you would be very clear whether there's a cultural fit.
Fantastic. It's relevance to a problem that you might not have been thinking about. Okay, very interesting. And so how important are salespeople then? If there's relevance to a problem you might not have been thinking about, how important is the salesperson?
I would say very, very important and very, very relevant. You guys drive it, you own it, you make it your own, and we can make it happen together. So I think this is crucially important to have. I would say, the right salespeople at the right on the right prospect.
So what differentiates a good salesperson from a bad salesperson?
Being in control. Well, first of all, doing all this, things that probably buy you the first meeting and the second meeting. It's really important to get into the meeting prepared. So you would feel whether, it's a little bit rehearsed or drilled, and particularly if there are other stakeholders involved. So it has to be, it has to feel that it was prepared. Secondly, definitely knowing the customer, knowing our situation, our problem, our industry, knowing, us as individuals, do the research on LinkedIn, some informal things. So it's like really doing the research about the customer. And then what I said about this, this culture fit. Which is like coming to an interview in a sense. I mean, you'd probably have to think about these things again and again. So the good ones would be having this in obsessive control. So I had an example where I think this is an exceptional person that I was fortunate to work with, and we've been working on actually an opportunity where I was an executive sponsor and where I knew the CIO personally, and we were selling a six-digit contract to them over like 5 years. And I was mesmerized by the ethics of work ethics of the person, over communicating, summarizing everything, being very specific and clear and accurate in all of those summaries, follow-ups, action items. And the group of stakeholders that person was managing was a lot of people at the customer, the client, the prospective customer at the time, and a lot of people internally. And it was very agile. Okay, they said this, so we need to tweak this. Okay, they now want to look at the partner. Okay, let's bring the partner. And the person was owning the deal commercially end to end. Even I was the CFO, and sometimes I was like, oh, but we can give this concession. He's like, nope. It's already done. I've done my homework with procurement, and it was a lot of no's, much more no's than I would probably take on my own shoulders at that time. And we closed the deal. Even some leadership changed as we were going through the sales cycle. But once there was a decision made, we closed this pretty fast, which was amazing.
Very good. And okay, when you're considering buying a piece of software, how important are peers and the information you get from peers?
Yeah, very, very good question, Vernon. I would typically leverage the network of the CFOs or CEOs or people that I know in the industry, and this is more of a wide industry, tech industry or IT industry. So I have quite a substantial network. The other thing, which is so I came from public companies, if you like, to a private equity VC kind of backed up company. So that created a huge opportunity to actually leverage the network of VCs and PEs. So we have hundreds of companies that we can reach out to. And also these companies would have a centralized kind of hub or version, whether that's being led by finance or whether that's being led by some sort of performance improvement companies across the portfolio. So that kind of opened up a little bit of another angle. And there you can also choose, or maybe you even have a better choice of the companies like yourself with the same ambition, with the same challenge, maybe with something that we're going through the same problem, not necessarily in our particular industry, but probably be tech related.
Good. And you are Clari customer, so thank you very much for that. And in the context of our discussion about what's essential for your business, why did you bring Clari into Redpoints?
Oh, thanks, Vernon. That brings me back to kind of November, December times.
Yeah.
When we first met, I said, listen, it's going to be easy because I knew Clari from before. And I have a very long history. As long as I'm in software, I have a very long history of getting the forecasting process right. So, and as a part of my remit, when I joined Redpoints, with the CEO hat, it was to get revenue operations to different level. But it actually was bringing the sales organization to different level with the discipline of forecasting and deal management and pipeline management. And then we knew that we will be having a new CRO, and we had the enterprise team being built, so that bought us a little bit of time to get the project right. So it's the desire to fix the revenue forecasting and the pipeline management in a very, very short period of time with technology. Because in the majority sort of years in my career, forecasting was managed by Excels and by the people who would call, we need an Excel junkie for the forecasting process. But the Excel junkie probably would not have a lot of insights, and predictive maybe wasn't that strong at the time. So I guess the predictive element, the good portfolio of companies and the people that I knew personally who bought Clari. So that was, and also the CRO and our senior people who were users of Clara in the past. So it was setting this up correctly was the thing that we were focusing on.
Very good. And the one last final question: how does it help you in your business? What strategic imperatives does it help support? That's my final question.
Ironically, just the timeline was very interesting. So we went live in February, and the CRO joined in February, and then we had a lockdown in Spain. We had a lockdown about the 12th of March, and we started with our business. We started to feel something was going off in February already from Asia and from the US. That were trading with China and some of the Asian companies that were kind of shutting down. So in the CRO words, we sat together actually 2 weeks ago when we could come to the office again. So we were physically in the office and looking at each other. And he was based in Madrid, and I was in Barcelona during the lockdown for almost 3 months. And boom, then we were going through the forecast. Okay, let's look at July. Let's look how we finishing June, August. Let's look at the Q4. And as he was going through through the deals and Clari, through the forecast, he's like, listen, the best thing that could happen to us is this. And honestly, it was such a right time. With a massive change for the company, how we run our business, it helped a lot to get through this very difficult months.
Fantastic.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm glad we met.